Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Film Reel Podcast. I am your host, Alex Khalil, and with me, as always, is my co-host, cohort, co-pilot, co-anchor,
Conspirator.
co-conspirator. Thank you. You remember my line better than I do.
Mm-hmm.
The little drummer boy himself, Jesse Frawley. Jesse?
Howdy, folks. It's great to be back.
We are recording from the highest room in the tallest tower of Castle Khalil to talk about another fantastic movie this week. We're talking about Whiplash, which is the 2014 movie that you picked out from last week's episode, which was the Joker episode, which a lot of people liked.
Yeah.
So before we get going, anyway, I just want to do a catch up. Like, Jesse, how are you this week?
I'm doing great. Haven't had a whole lot of changes since last week, but the show I'm in rehearsals for is going really well. We're coming along. It's a lot of fun.
Any movie watching besides just the assigned project?
You know what? I don't think so. No.
Okay.
I still have a lot of catching up to do, especially with this year's Oscars.
Yeah, me too. But I did do a lot of catching up on just like general films. I watched 4 movies this week.
No kidding.
Which is, I've not done that in a very long time. Sunday, watched Legion on Netflix. Okay. Which, are you familiar with this movie at all?
Is that the one where it's like angels and demons and stuff?
No. It's like the end of the world, and it's angels coming to just kill everyone.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking
And
of.
like this woman's pregnant, and her baby has to be born to save the world or whatever.
Right.
Not a good movie.
No,
No.
I've seen a lot of clips from it. I've never seen the whole thing, but
really bad acting. The main character is a guy with a very southern, like redneck accent named Jeep.
Oof.
So
Jeep.
Right that off the bat, I'm like, well, I ain't room for this guy. The pregnant woman is pretty unlikable. Dennis Quaid is in it as the yelly parent who is mad at his kid.
Right.
Which, like, I even asked my wife while we were watching, it's like, does he always play the angry parent or a scientist in every movie?
Yeah.
Tyrese Gibson is in it, and he tries. This is before Fast and Furious really got his acting chops right. But it's fine. The action is not well shot. It's not really visually appealing that much, but there's some cool moments. Like, the story's clever-ish.
Sure.
The best part of this movie is Paul Bettany as the Archangel Michael. Right. He is a national treasure. He's awesome. I love Paul Bettany.
Love Paul Bettany.
Him and the guy who plays Gabriel, the other angel, I can't remember who plays him.
I know who you're talking about.
They act like they're in 2 completely different movies. Like, they were actually giving 100% like genuine, authentic performances, really trying to make this movie work. And it's like, you're trying way too hard for that paycheck, man.
Yeah, I wish I could remember the name of this guy, because the comment just isn't going to land as well when I say I don't know what they were thinking when they cast him as Gabriel.
Yeah, it's the Mike. Hang on.
He played
Kevin Durant.
Yeah, Kevin Durant.
Durant, yes.
He played the Blob.
Oh, he did. That's right. Oh my god, I totally forgot about that. Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah.
He looks like who was the guy that played General Zod in the newest Man of Steel movie?
Michael Shannon.
He looks a lot like Michael Shannon. If those two could play brothers, like Kevin Durant be the goofy younger brother, and Michael Shannon be the older asshole one.
Right.
But they look like fucking brothers. The second movie I'll skip to the third movie I watched, because the last one's the best one. But the next best one I watched was Zombieland Double Tap.
Oh, okay.
It's basically the same movie as the first one. If you like the first one, you'll love this one, and ain't gonna change your mind. The characters are so really, really funny. The writing is great. There's a great like one take action scene, like where they're like fighting through like a room and like multiple rooms. Really cool. Some of the new characters are good, although they don't use a lot of the characters they introduce aren't used well.
Okay.
And then like the ones that are there throughout the entire movie are kind of annoying. And like, yeah, I don't want to see more of this person. I want to see more of this other person you introduce. And they introduce like these different, like, oh, there's new zombies, and like they're like in one scene and like, okay, yeah, they're never involved. And like just this one new zombie we're talking about. It's like, come on.
Darn.
Yeah. So good movie overall. It's not gonna break. It's a pretty safe sequel, I feel like, which that's fine, because like that's what people wanted from Zombieland. And the last movie I watched was Ready or Not. Have you heard about this at all?
I've definitely heard of it. I can't remember off the top of my head which one that is.
So this woman gets married to a very wealthy family there that make board games.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a ritual where every time someone gets married, the new member of the family has to play a game where they draw a card from a box, which is like randomly made. And the new bride draws hide and seek, which hasn't been drawn in like 30 years in the family. And basically means that the family has to ritually kill this woman before sunrise, or the entire family, according to the legend, is going to die.
Yikes.
It is a twisted, dark comedy with a thriller vibe. It's very, very well done. The comedy lands, the like intensity of like the action scenes land. It's creepy. You enjoy the characters. The person who plays the bride, I can't remember her name. She looks like Margot Robbie's sister, though. Mm-hmm. Like the entire movie, I'm just like I just kept thinking like that's Margot Robbie. What's her name? It is Samara Weavling.
I'm not familiar with this person.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with her too. She's great, and the whole cast is good. And I won't spoil the ending, but the ending is like the perfect punchline to the entire movie. Excellent. It's fantastic. So highly recommend you watch this. I'm really sad I didn't get to see this in theaters because I think watching with a crowd, especially for the ending, would have been amazing. But really, really recommend people go out of their way to watch this movie if they get a chance.
Perfect.
Don't watch Legion unless you really want to watch something on Netflix. And Zombieland, if you're a fan of Zombieland 1, you're fine. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So, Jesse, why don't you tell us what we're talking about today?
All right. So we're going to talk about Whiplash, which was one of 2014's Best Picture nominees. It is also the movie that finally won J.K. Simmons his Oscar. It was for Best Supporting Actor, and it was very well deserved. This was the kind of role that, you might not like the character. You're definitely not supposed to like him. But speaking as an actor, I cannot imagine how strenuous it must have been to play this guy and make him the protagonist in your eyes, because that's what you're supposed to do, right?
Yes. I have two things real quick. Number one, are you worried about the backstory behind this movie?
Vaguely. I know that there was actually like a short film made before it with him as this character, but it was not technically Whiplash.
It was, it was like an 18-minute film, which was like the director really wanted to find fun, but couldn't find it, so he submitted to Sundance. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is, I looked this up, and like I found out from a friend of mine, his girlfriend, they weren't dating at the time, obviously, was the one that delivered it to Sundance.
Huh.
And it's just like, wow, like that, like no pressure, like you're literally like, so this film being a success story and being this great movie that got J.K. Simmons an Oscar was all like because this woman was able to deliver it to Sundance. Like if she wasn't able to, like just no pressure.
Yeah.
And as I told my buddy, it's like, man, I imagine she was just nervous about J.K. Simmons yelling at her before failing to deliver, if she failed to deliver it. And also, apparently, like J.K. Simmons was just like a really nice guy between takes.
I bet he was. I mean,
he seems like a very nice guy.
I was gonna say I remember his acceptance speech the night he won was a very genuine, very kind speech.
He feels like a very genuine person.
Yeah, it was very short too. He accepted it. He thanked the usual people, and then he said, if you've got a loved one far away, your parents or your friends or somebody that's close to your heart but far away from you, give them a call.
Yeah,
just give them a call tonight.
What also, like, what is it about like really great like people, like really nice genuine people that make awesome assholes in movies?
I think it's from their experiences observing people who are not
it must be
not great, because it's another thing how they say comedians make great dramatic actors, right?
Yes.
They know the timing the best, or maybe they just...
So basically just like actors, the more opposite you are from your character, the better you are.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what the exact science is behind it, but I agree that, typically you find the people playing these really abusive characters in movies to be just
wonderful people,
teddy bears in real life.
That might explain why I really like Tom Cruise in movies but hate him in person. that would probably explain it.
Yeah, probably.
All right, so give us the breakdown. Give us the rundown of this film.
Okay, so it takes place, assumably, in 2014. It was just a contemporary movie.
It's not a period piece.
Right. They never mention anything about that. But it's in New York City at the Schaefer Conservatory of Music and Art. And we open up on our protagonist, a young man named Andrew Neiman, who is a first-year student. It's the fall semester, and he's been drumming all his life. We kind of assume, music is his passion.
We get a visual later on, like of him like watching a young video of himself, like at
right.
like 4 years old, playing the drums, and his dad recording it. So, you get the idea that he's been doing this all his life.
Oh, absolutely. This is his passion. This is his dream. He wants to be like, a world-class drummer like Buddy Rich. And while he's at Schaefer, he's approached a few times by a conductor named Terrence Fletcher. He's a famed conductor, and I don't know if he works as like a professor at the school.
Yeah, he's like the basically like the senior conductor / teacher for the senior group.
Right.
The more advanced class.
Yeah, and he's got a studio band that is pretty prestigious, mainly because of him. He's their pride and joy, assumably.
Yeah.
So, the movie starts off giving us a few brief glimpses into Neiman's everyday life. We see him in a different studio class for jazz band at Schaefer, and he and his friend Connolly are the drummers for that class. And we kind of get the vibe that the other students aren't crazy about him.
You get the vibe very quickly that that Andrew is very much like he doesn't have friends. He doesn't have a social life. He just focuses on his drumming, and that's about it.
Right. We see a couple of students pass by him, and I think they make some remark about him that is not flattering, but it's not really a focus per se. They just kind of gloss over it, and Connolly says like, don't worry about them.
Yeah, that like this whole opening thing was weird because it's like I'm like expecting like later on to get like some backstory about like why people kind of don't like him, but we never really drawn it, which I'm actually fine with because I don't give a shit about the college drama bullshit. Like I want to focus on the story.
Yeah,
which is one thing I'll praise this movie for is it doesn't waste time with meaningless bullshit.
Yeah,
it's a pretty straightforward story. With typical Oscar movies, which this is an Oscar movie because it's nominated for Best Picture and everything, there's a lot of like Oscar baiting scenes where they draw things out and make you try to feel something. And like this movie is very just like, no, we're pedal to the metal. We're going to have moments of like showcasing the talent of these players.
Yeah.
But it's all in context for the story. It's about progressing the story.
Yeah. The movie's main goal was to showcase the relationship between Neiman and Fletcher, and everything else served its purpose. But
to set the stage.
Yeah. They didn't really dwell on much else.
Right. Which I really appreciated.
Right. So another thing we get to see kind of after classes is Neiman going to the movies with his father, and it's clear that the mother's not in the picture. And there's a girl named Nicole who works at the theater that Andrew, has a crush on. And this is another part of the movie where they quick show you just their style, because he goes up to order like popcorn, raisinets, and such, and there are a bunch of really quick shots of like scooping up the popcorn, pouring a drink, handing over the box, and it's just like extremely meaningless things. But the movie draws attention to each of them for half a second, just like boom, boom, boom.
Right.
And that'll become more prominent in a little bit, but they decided to do it right now for getting the candy and showing there's maybe something going on here.
It was a neat little trick.
Yeah. So we fast forward, Neiman's in another rehearsal, and Fletcher walks in. Or I say rehearsal, it was class.
Right, it was essentially class teaching. And he walks in, and I gotta say right now, like from like the first scene you see Fletcher in, it's apparent that he owns the room every time he walks in them. It's really bizarre. It's almost like I attribute it to like Hannibal Lecter from Sons of the Lamb. It's like when he walks in the room, everyone's focus is on him.
Absolutely.
He doesn't have to say anything. He doesn't have to do anything. He just walks around and looks, and people just know like we're being judged and watched and monitored by this guy.
Yeah.
and it was very just. It's almost creepy,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, okay, like you're fascinated by his character.
Yeah, he commands whatever ground he walks on, and like for this scene, for instance, when he walks in, the usual instructor or conductor or whoever,
Right.
who he's not a big character by any means, but the one shot we had of him before now made him seem kind of strict, kind of
Right. He's a
things.
typical music instructor where he's not super strict. He doesn't mess around, but he's
Right.
very like, all right, like do that. And like he's teaching.
Yeah.
In a very, I don't want to say like relaxed mode, but more casual.
Yeah.
And kind of how you would expect an actual conductor / teacher to do this.
Right. I mean, he says good morning to the class, and then like he does not move on until everybody has said good morning back. So
right. Yeah. So it's kind of like a buddy, like, hey, I'm the cool professor.
Right.
You know.
We get a very brief glimpse into this guy, but we know he's not a pushover. But regardless, when Fletcher walks in, he basically just says, "Move aside for a sec." Guy doesn't say anything. He leaves and he lets Fletcher take over.
Right.
He's like,
and
it's not going to stand in his way.
And there, I don't know if I'm sure you caught it, but like the little moment of him like walking over, looking at the sheet that they're playing, and just going, "Oh, cute." It's like just Fletcher's little moments of just like, and this movie's really good. There's one at the end I will talk about,
right?
But like the movie's little moments of like just that stinging like burn. It's like, man, and Fletcher throughout the entire movie has these moments of just like jabbing the knife without even giving attention to it.
Yeah.
Just like quick underhanded comments. And that one especially, just like, man, what a dick move to do.
He just knocked the entire class down a peg. He knows nobody is gonna like,
these are all
up to him.
Yeah, these are all minuscule peons that don't deserve his attention for more than 5 seconds, which him going down the row and like testing them for like 2 seconds, it's like just wow.
Yeah, this is especially where we see, he's kind of like the Gordon Ramsay for jazz band. He does not waste any time
100%.
He voices his.
You have 2 seconds, impress him. 2 seconds are over, bye.
You don't even have 2 seconds.
Right.
You've got like a half a second. I mean, he tells somebody to start playing, they start, and he's got his whole mind made up about them. He just tells them to stop, moves on to the next one, makes his kind of underhanded comments. And then he gets to Neiman and Connolly. He tells them each to play their number for a sec.
Wasn't it like it was the same like what was it called, like the twist or whatever, some shit?
It was the double time swing.
Double time swing. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, that was it.
Which I have no idea what the hell that is.
No,
but...
no. When we get to the tempo scene, I have a comment about that. But like, yeah, and also like earlier in the movie, like the very opening scene was Neiman drumming, and like he walks in, and Neiman stops, and like it's very apparent right away like how Fletcher is, because he's like, "Why'd you stop?" And like Newman starts playing again. They're like, "Well, why'd you start playing again?" I didn't. And like just constantly, just like he has everyone's number.
Yep.
The second he sees them, he can tell right away like what kind of person they are, just by the second he walks in and interacts with them. And it's creepy. Yeah. It's very disturbing how good he is at just like picking apart someone real fast.
Yeah, I mean, you can feel everyone's discomfort when they're talking to him. Like,
yes.
You can just feel the authority that bleeds off of this guy, and how in his presence you're just walking on glass. You don't want to do or say anything wrong. So if he tells you to do something, you just try it, even if you don't know how.
You take every bit of criticism he gives you, and you smile, and you just take it.
Right. So after Neiman and Connolly play just a fraction of this double time swing for him, Fletcher decides that Neiman has made the cut for some reason.
But no. Doesn't like tell him he makes it. Just like starts just picks up his stuff, starts walking away, and then like as he's leaving the room, it's just like, oh yeah, Neiman, you're gonna be coming with my class, this time. And just like it's so dismissive about it, and like that's just it's like God, like you're entranced by this character. And it's like I think there's one thing the movie does really well. It's like you're hooked, line, and sinker about like, okay, I want this guy to be approving of someone.
Right.
You're invested in like getting this approval from this guy.
Plus, it's always extremely noticeable when a character just bleeds confidence, right?
Oh yeah.
And Fletcher, there's not an ounce of whatever. I'm sorry. What is the opposite of confidence? Unconfidence,
insecurity.
Sure. Yeah. He is 100% confidence.
He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly what he wants. at all times.
Yeah, so he just walks into this studio and steals one of the drummers. And
Right.
he just tells him, show up tomorrow, don't be late. And,
At 6 a.m.
Yeah. And Neiman, of course, this is what he's been waiting for. So he's
now,
right on.
okay, so thinking of like that, and I think confidence is a big part of this movie. Because, like, the second Neiman gets that, like, approval, like, of, like, oh, you're going to be coming in my class now, you suddenly see his character just change from, like, the 10 minutes or so we've seen him.
Yep.
Where, like, now he's suddenly much more confident. He's holding his head up higher. He's smiling more because it's almost like, oh, I'm being recognized for my talent.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure this is when he just goes and asks out Nicole.
Yep.
And it's just, and it's like, that's a big thing. It's like how he's gotten some confidence because this guy approves of him. And now it's like, oh, I'm much better now. And you know, he's doing a little swagger, you know, walking down the street.
Right. Yeah. I think it cuts straight to the movie theater. He goes, he asks out Nicole at work. So
the most awkward ask out ever.
I know, just don't do that. Don't ever do that. But Neiman,
which, by the way, like the Nicole's character, like doing like the, no, just go away. And like, like that. Why? I'm like, oh my God. And
that
like,
was so funny.
A tease of the anxiety that this movie will produce in that little scene. And like, and then, like,
even though we're talking about how confident he is, but he doesn't actually just kind of walk up, ask her out. He comes up and he's like, hey, you know, I think you're cute. And well, I don't know. I mean, I just was wondering if you wanted to go out sometime. You know, it's still very awkward delivery.
Right. But like confident enough to go up and do it.
Yes. So. And then, of course, noticing this, she fucks with him for a second and she's like, no, you need to leave. Get out. Get out. And he's like, oh, shit. But then she's like, nope, just fucking with you. When do you want to go out?
So, and so yeah, that was a fun little scene. And again, anytime a director or a writer can write awkwardness and actually feel genuine, I applaud them. And this was very, very genuine. You felt awkward and like kind of like, ooh, like what's going on? Like you're like nervously like scratching the back of your head, like what do I say now?
This is a perfect example of a movie that it's not a suspense thriller, it's not an action movie or a horror movie, but it'll make you feel real.
You're uneased by some of the scenes, and so there's another one coming up. There's a lot. Okay,
the whole movie is like this, folks. So just to let you know. All right, so next day, Neiman goes to the class on time. I mean, he thinks he's going to be late.
Yes, like he sleeps in past his alarm or whatever, and like he rushes there, and he's like falls on his face. He walks in. No one's there, and the class time is at 9 a.m.
Yep. So he got fucked.
And again, here's the clever thing: is like they never address it again.
Right.
He doesn't have a scene where he goes to the professor and like, why'd you tell me 6 when it's really 9?
Yeah.
There's not a scene like where like other kids are in the classroom like, oh, he did the whole 6 o'clock thing on you. It's just
right. Yeah.
It's just it's there and it's never addressed again. And like it's almost like the audience is supposed to figure out like, yeah, Neiman or Fletcher was fucking with him to really push him, and it's like it's a moment like that, and like you're expected to figure out the punchline. Mm-hmm. The movie doesn't spell out the punchline.
Right.
I love that. Don't tell us why this is a moment. Let us figure it out.
Don't show the monster in the trailer.
There you go. Exactly.
So when the class finally arrives, Neiman he's made himself comfortable in the studio. He's sitting by the drum set, so you know he's just been patiently waiting for 3 hours.
Right.
And when everyone shows up, we figure out Neiman is being taken on as an alternate. So the core drummer is a guy named Carl Tanner. He walks in and there's just this instant dislike. He kind of...
Because Neiman is basically like, oh yeah, you're my bitch. Like, turn my pages, set up my drum.
Well, Tanner says that to Neiman.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But like that's how Tanner feels about Neiman.
Exactly. He sees him as a threat.
Yeah. Well, and like, you know, it's like, oh yeah, you're my alternate. You work for me, basically.
Oh yeah, and I mean, we should definitely mention. I mean, these are Tanner's, or not Tanner's. Sorry, these are Fletcher's people. This is Fletcher's jazz band, so they're kind of adopting that personality as much as they can. And like the way they set up, like the way everyone's like tuning their instruments and everything, it felt like people preparing to go to war. Right.
Like these guys are all business, focusing on their instruments, this and that, and it's also a great scene, like where like the second it hits 9 o'clock. Boom, Fletcher's walking in the door, and everyone's just like at attention.
Exactly. They fall dead silent, stand up, lower their heads, and like it's like watching a 5-star general walk into West Point. You know?
Yes, it is. And again, the intimidation of Fletcher is on display, and it's kind of cool because we're seeing it from Neiman's eyes, and like he even can like have like that moment, like he's just like okay, like following along, trying to keep up.
Mm-hmm. And again, he's only the alternate right now. He's just turning the pages for the core drummer, and if something happens, if the core drummer isn't there or gets removed, alternate steps up. So when Fletcher arrives, gets settled, it's straight to business. There's no warm up or anything.
There's no warm up. It's just like, okay, we're playing this song.
Yeah, and he calls Neiman the squeaker, which
they never
it's the new fish.
They never explain that what that means.
Right. We know it's their term for rookie, apparently.
Right.
So he's like, hey, here's Neiman, isn't he cute? All right, let's start off with Whiplash, which is a Hank Levy piece.
Roll credits.
Yep. That's the movie, folks. 18 minutes.
Yeah,
just like the other one.
Well, that's a joke from
Cinema Sins.
Yes,
yeah.
Thank you. Okay,
I hear
you.
Yeah. So kind of calling back to the scene where they do all the quick shots of like the popcorn and the candy, the movie does a thing where while the band starts playing, there's like an instant quarter of a second shot of like each player doing their thing. You get a quick shot of a trumpet, then the piano, then a trombone, and
this movie was shot and choreographed by a guy that loves music.
Exactly. And I have to really credit him for making just kind of any scene showing a band playing really interesting.
Yes.
Because I don't know how else you could really do it.
Yes.
I mean, it's a band playing. You don't want a wide shot. You don't want too much of anything. So he just gives you a little bit of everything.
Right. It was great.
Yeah.
Very well shot. Also, like, I have to credit like the scene of like Fletcher like holding his hand up, like waiting to conduct. And it's like it's a solid like 10-second pause of like him holding his hand and like everyone like just like waiting for the signal to go.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's intense. It's just like you're like almost like shaking, like, okay, what we're waiting for? What are we waiting for? Like,
right.
You're waiting for that ball to drop.
Right.
And like,
they just give so much power to his finger in that moment.
Yes.
It's raised, and you're just waiting for it to drop. And as soon as it comes down, everybody's going to be on their shit and start playing.
And then we get the turn.
Right. So we get another glimpse into Fletcher now. He starts, I mean, if anything goes wrong, somebody's not on time or in tune, he will raise his fist, stop everybody, call out the person who's doing it wrong, and he's very verbally abusive. I mean,
yes. This is when it highlights it.
Yes, yeah. Because in the other scenes, we did get kind of a glimpse into.
It wasn't like it wasn't abusive. It was just kind of like insulting and like degrading.
But that is plenty abusive,
right? But I'm just saying, like this is like a whole other level, though.
Right?
Like that was child's play to compare it to what he's like in his environment.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's in his castle, his domain, and you know that like if any of the main faculty were seeing this, assumably he'd get fired because like there's no way he can actually talk to his students like that, is there?
100%, yeah. So he calls out, like he basically like thinks this person out of tune. So he has like this like, okay, like reveal yourself.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you won't reveal yourself? Maybe it was me. And like he toys with them. And then like he just goes down the line like finding out who's out of tune.
Yeah. And he stops in front of an unfortunate lad who's a little overweight, and he's just staring at the floor right now. So Fletcher stops in front of him. This guy's a trombone player, and he's like, "Oh, tell me it isn't you, Elmer Fudd." It's just like, God, he just can't refer to people by their names. He has to insult them.
His nicknames for people were great. My personal favorite one, I don't remember when it was, but was the line about the one horn player, like, that's not your boyfriend's dick, don't come early.
That was the That was the very first example of him being verbally abusive towards his students in this scene.
And again, like I'm a horrible person for laughing, but I thought that was a really funny line.
Right. I mean, sometimes the shit hits you out of nowhere sometimes. Right. So it's like, whoop, can't help but laugh a little bit.
Right. Even though this guy is a piece of shit.
Oh yeah, notorious piece of shit.
Right.
So when he's calling out this guy, he has already made it clear that one of two things is going on. He says either the person that is not in tune is deliberately sabotaging my band, or they don't realize that they are out of tune, which is worse. Mm-hmm. So he looks at this guy and he's like, were you out of tune? Guy doesn't really want to answer. He's like, hey, do you think that you were out of tune? Guy's looking down and he's like, no, there's no Mars bar on the floor. Look at me. I know, it's just
again
terrible guy.
Like a drill sergeant.
Yep.
This, like, the only thing I could attribute these scenes to was like Arlie Emery from Full Metal Jacket, where it's just like,
oh, absolutely. I was going to bring that up.
right. It's like he is a drill instructor. He is molding these guys into the perfect instruments of his band.
Yep.
And he's going to break them down if he has to.
Absolutely.
And just, it's so intimidating. You're locked on screen watching this.
Yeah, and that's why that's why this kid does not want to answer. He's like,
the
my
best thing
life is at stake right now.
The best thing is he doesn't really yell. He just very calmly.
Yeah.
And then when the guy says, I think so, then why the fuck? He just yells at the top of his lungs.
Screams into his face. Kicks him out. This is the...
Yeah, he's out. He's gone.
Neiman's first day. He sees somebody get kicked out.
And then the kicker.
Yeah, the worst part about this is, as soon as the door closes and he's gone, Fletcher says, oh, by the way, what's-his-face was not out of tune. That was you, Richards. And we just see this other trombone player look up like, what?
And he's like, but the fact that he didn't know he was out of tune was worse. And it's just like, and they're like, okay, take a break. And it's like, what the
fuck? Literally, the guy that did not do anything wrong got kicked out, and the guy who did something wrong got to stay.
But what did he not do? He didn't stand up for himself. He didn't have confidence in his ability.
Right.
And so Fletcher's like, okay, I don't have time for you.
This guy does not tolerate doubt.
Yes. So, and then we get, again, a bizarre scene where Fletcher takes Neiman aside and talks to him, gets to learn a little bit about it. We find out that Neiman's mother left the family.
Yep.
His father's a teacher, and like no one in his family's a musician.
Yeah.
So he basically was self-taught. Like he learned from watching other people.
Yeah, and it's clear that Neiman is kind of uncomfortable telling Fletcher these things because he knows he's being judged right now. So he, Fletcher asks, "What does your dad do?" And he goes, "He's a writer." He goes, "Oh yeah, what's he written?" He's like, well, actually, I guess he's more of a teacher. He goes, where does he teach? College? And he's like, nope, over at Peddington High School.
This guy's like finding the ammunition basically to throw at you.
Neiman's just very uncomfortable when he says it. It's like, oh no.
But then like Fletcher's like, okay, like hey, like just relax, take it easy.
Yeah. Oh my god.
And then like you're here for a reason thing, and it's like it was like one of those things like, okay, like is he fucking with him or does he honestly believe what he's telling Neiman?
Right. He sounds very genuine. He sounds very laid back, and like he literally gives him the just relax and have fun spiel.
Right.
After that
after just seeing a guy get kicked off the band for not having the confidence in himself to say, oh yeah, I'm in tune. What are you talking? Yeah, which again, who in their right mind is going to do that to a conductor? I don't know anything about band, but if the conductor says, I think you're out of tune, you probably just like, oh yeah, whatever you say, sir.
Yeah.
Like,
and sorry, go ahead.
No, it's so. This scene was just like, okay, like, you're not sure if he's messing with him or not.
Yeah, he's a strange animal.
Indeed.
So I'm pretty sure next thing is they come back from break, and now Fletcher is like, okay, we're gonna try Neiman as a core right now. So you two switch, and Neiman is definitely more at ease after that chat.
Right, he's just kind of chill, and Fletcher's even like, okay, we're gonna take it slow. That way you can kind of get the basics, and we'll take it easy on you.
Yeah, he's being very generous in this moment.
Right. So they start playing.
Yeah, they start playing. I don't think it's Whiplash. It's whatever that double time swing was.
The like Casanova one or whatever.
Something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember. I'm sorry.
No problem. Yeah. So Neiman starts playing, and it's going well. Fletcher's saying like, "Oh, look, we got Buddy Rich over here."
Right? Yeah, he's he's boosting his confidence, and like you can see Neiman starting like kind of like, "Okay, yeah, I'm getting this."
There's another important line we should mention in that scene where Fletcher was, being
boosting
nice to him.
Neiman's confidence. He
makes a comment about how Charlie Parker only became
Charlie
Parker because Joe Jones threw a cymbal at his head.
Right.
And he's like, do you kind of know what I'm saying to you right now, Neiman? And Neiman's like, yeah, this is why you're an asshole, because it's good for me, apparently. Right. So back.
And then we get this is probably the most famous scene in the movie, right?
Absolutely.
This is the scene that won J.K. Simmons the Oscar.
Yeah, this is the one they showed in all the trailers and everything. Yes. He keeps playing for a second, and then Fletcher does his infamous,
the fist.
We can't show you right now, but he
does his Black Panther like fist salute,
right,
to stop
brings up his fist, kind of does like a back and forth, really quick motion to just be like stop.
And again, like it's great because like Neiman's playing, but like the second that fist goes up, boom, stop.
Yeah,
you come to a dead stop.
Loses his smile, and he's just like, oh shit, I fucked up.
It's red light, green light, and the red light's on. Right. You better stop.
Yeah. So Fletcher says, not my tempo. Try it again. So tries again, same thing. Boom, he goes, not quite my tempo, and he
And
gets him
here's the
back
thing.
into it.
This is kind of cool. Like where you see Fletcher like giving him a chance. Like, okay, like I'm telling you, you're not doing it right.
Right.
Come on. Still not doing it right. Come
Yeah.
on.
He's
It's like he's giving him.
okay. We're just gonna try it again.
He's giving him chances, and it's like
Yeah.
it's like it's reasonable. You understand where Fletcher's coming from.
Yep.
And then
Neiman's playing again. Now it's going on for about 5 seconds, so it's like must be going okay.
right, he starts walking away from in front of him.
Fletcher moves away, grabs a chair, and chucks it at Neiman. And Neiman actually has to duck, and it just flies over his head, crashes into the corner. And Neiman lifts up like, imagine you're a student and your professor just hurled a chair at your head.
And Fletcher, very calmly, like, why did I throw that chair at you?
Just like, yeah, it's like, pop quiz, Neiman. Why did I just try to kill you?
Yeah.
Neiman's like, because I wasn't in tempo or something. He goes, why weren't you in tempo? And I mean, this is
a great
fast-paced dialogue. I can't remember every word.
It's great, and like basically, like he's like start doing your count 1, 2, 3, 4, bam, slaps him.
Literally, now he's getting physically abusive with his students,
and it just basically berates him, breaks him down, and basically like calls him every insult you can think of,
and like every politically incorrect insult. Like he's just being like, oh, I didn't know they let retards into Schaefer.
Yeah,
just like count, bam, slap.
Right, and so and so basically Neiman like, okay, alternate, your time's up, move out of the way.
Yeah, he literally brings Neiman to tears after like forcing him. Like, so we see Neiman's crying, and of course, the villain takes advantage of this. And he's just like, uh-oh, are you upset? Tell the class you're upset. He goes, I'm upset. He goes, louder, I'm upset. Louder, I'm upset. And just
brings up the fact that his mother left the family.
Yes. Oh, my God.
Jesus.
It's like he was only gathering ammunition when he was asking him those questions. So he goes, yep, mommy left the family and daddy's a loser. You're going to make him the success story of the family if you keep this bullshit up.
Right. And just like, and right then and there, you're like, okay, we now know who the villain of the movie is.
Right.
It's no question.
Yeah. Okay, so next up, I'm pretty sure is the date.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we see Nicole and him go on a date.
Yeah, and it's just a pizza parlor, kind of typical stuff.
By the way, like when he said like, oh, I know a pizza place we should go to. I'm like, okay, they're gonna go to a pizza. I was like, it's like the freaking cafeteria looking place. It's just like, good God, dude. Yeah. But again, poor college students, in New York.
He's 19 years old, guys. Right. Come on.
This was an awkward first date.
It was.
And I'm just like very clearly like these guys have nothing in common.
Right. Yeah. Oh, and we never even mentioned, in case you didn't know, Miles Teller is playing Andrew Neiman.
Yeah, Miles Teller, who does a great job.
Absolutely.
He does a great job. He's a great actor. And so there's a very telling thing like where like he asks her about her school, and she's kind of like, oh, I really don't know what I want to do. And this just like blows him away.
Right.
Because he has dedicated his life, every waking moments to drumming, and the idea that this person who is in college doesn't know what she wants to do, it's shocking.
I can't remember where she's going to school, but she says that she chose it because she applied and they accepted.
Yes.
She doesn't know what she wants to do. She doesn't have a major. And Neiman, whether it's just his natural reaction to think, oh, that's weird because I'm going to Schaefer because it's like the best music school in the state, maybe country, and that's my passion.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's this kind of Fletcher's personality bleeding into it.
I think it's more of Neiman's. I think it's more of Neiman.
It's
like,
definitely
Neiman,
early.
He strikes me as a guy like even from the get go, where it's like he knows what he wants to do, and like the idea that someone doesn't know what they want to do with their life, and it doesn't have like a path is just like it's mind blowing. Like this guy, this strikes me as the guy who's from day one as a kid knew this is what I'm going to do.
Right. So that's really the highlight of the date. And we skip ahead to a jazz competition somewhere.
It doesn't really matter.
Right. It's not a huge one like we will see later.
Which, okay, by the way, like I just thought it's fun. Like for these like jazz competitions, you figure there'd be more of a crowd. Like it's like in the audience, there's like the judges and like maybe 20 people.
Yeah, I figure that this is just a showcase. Like, they're bringing in some semi-professionals to vet the students.
Maybe,
basically.
but like even in like all the competitions except for the finale, there's no one in the crowd. I feel like
right.
So
whatever the case, everybody's dressed up, kind of suit and tie almost, and all the core, all
Members.
the cores, they've got their folders for the music. And so Carl Tanner has a folder containing Whiplash. And Fletcher makes it very clear to everybody. He's like, do not fucking leave these lying around. Like, you always have one of these in your hands. Because if he found one, just sitting on a chair. He's like, if I find another one of these just sitting down somewhere, I'm going to kill someone.
No. It was the line of like, if I see one of these laying around again, I'm going to stop being so polite.
Oh, yeah.
And then the stagehand comes over and like, not now, mini-me.
Yeah.
Like,
get the fuck out of here, Shadow.
Yeah, and like, I can still see you over there.
Right.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Again, and at this point, it's like, I'm like, this is again one of those moments like where Fletcher goes back and forth, where it's like, you understand 100% where he's coming from, and he's relatable, and like, okay, this feels like something that like an actual conductor would do, and then he just takes it a little too far.
Yeah, always too far.
Always too far.
But he's not throwing chairs at anybody right now.
Yeah.
So during a break, or actually, I guess before they have to start playing, because there's a couple other groups there too.
Yeah, they do like one section, and they're gonna have another set to do.
So everybody goes out to just grab a drink, use the bathroom, whatever, and Tanner just basically slaps the folder into Neiman's chest and is like, hang on to this, because he's just treating him like he's his
a pack mule.
Exactly, pack mule.
Yeah.
Tanner goes to do something, and Neiman, guess what? He sets the folder on a chair, kind of by the vending machine, grabs a root beer, looks at just some couple of people having a conversation down the hall.
Yep.
And then Tanner shows up and he's like, hey, let me see the folder. I need to, just look at the music again. And Neiman turns around, and of course the folder is just gone for some reason. Yeah,
they never explain it. They I was expecting like, okay, so Fletcher's going to have it later on.
Right. I want to talk to you about that moment specifically after the synopsis.
Okay.
But Tanner freaks the fuck out on Neiman for this, and then they hear Fletcher calling for them. So they go, and Tanner's like, hey, Neiman lost the folder. I don't have it. And Fletcher's like, it was your responsibility. So strangely enough, lucky for Neiman, who lost the folder, Fletcher does not.
And that's when I'm like the whole time I'm like, oh great, Neiman's gonna get his ass shot. Exactly. But like, no, Fletcher's like, no, that is your responsibility, Tanner. Yeah. Why are you giving it to him?
Rightfully so, too.
You wouldn't hand a, what was it?
Oh yeah, get ready, folks.
It was like
he says, if you give a retard a calculator, he's gonna try and turn on the TV.
Yes. Great line. That's objectively a very funny joke.
Right. I mean, it serves the purpose of showing us that Fletcher is not a good guy.
No, but goddamn, he's great with jokes.
Effective.
He's a good comedian.
Anyway, Tanner reveals though in this scene that he needs the folder to play it. He doesn't have it memorized like he's supposed to. He has a medical condition. He requires visual cues.
Yeah,
and Fletcher's about to
just tear into him
for this when Neiman says that he does have it memorized. And I think we might have actually skipped a scene. You
see Fletcher practicing over and over again.
So Neiman, it's not just practice though. It's like he's grinding. I mean, he's in his place. He's practicing after that incident with Fletcher going so hard on him. He worked himself past his limit that night to get the tempo right.
He heard Ringo Starr's line about blisters on his fingers and like, hey, hold my drumsticks. Let me show you how it's done.
Right.
Like literally fingers bleeding from drumming so hard.
He plays until his hands bleed. He's dripping with sweat. You can just see that it looks like his entire body is in pain. He's just got his face scrunched up.
And he's like just trying to like keep going. Like,
so he was practicing Whiplash. Of course, he's got it memorized by now. And Fletcher looks at him and he's like, okay, don't fuck up. You're the core for today.
If you fuck up, like, I will murder you on stage.
Yeah, usual Fletcher stuff.
Yeah.
Shenanigans.
And goes on stage?
Goes on stage and he does it. He plays Whiplash. Tanner is his core, which that must have felt great for Neiman, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's a cool scene like where Fletcher's like watching him very intently, like, okay, you gonna beat it? And like he's getting in the hang of it, he's like, okay, and like he goes back to conducting like the rest of the group instead of focusing just on Newman.
Yeah,
or Neiman.
Yeah. This is not Seinfeld.
Yeah, so. Yeah, that'd be a great. That might be a funny movie.
Oh yeah,
write that one down.
Let's do it.
Reshot Whiplash with Newman in it.
Right. So the next time we cut later back to the studio at Schaefer, and Neiman Wait a minute. Sorry, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page. I'm not sure if it's...
this is it. Like they go back to the studio and
yep,
and Tanner is at the drum set, everything like that, normal day. Fletcher walks in and he's like, Tanner, what are you doing here? I don't have time for alternate stage, just core.
Yeah.
And like just that's the way he tells
exactly
Tanner that he's been replaced.
He breaks the news real harshly.
Yep.
So
and
Tanner kind of gives this look to Neiman like, you son of a bitch.
the drummer, the piano player at the great like as like Neiman's walking by one, but like, man, don't be touching my sheets.
Yeah. That was the first thing that anybody said when they're back at the studio too. So like for a second they're giving Neiman shit, and then Neiman gets a promotion from Fletcher.
Right.
And everyone's like shit.
It's like, okay, like, and again, like objectively, like, yeah, Neiman fucked up, but Tanner was told, do not let this go.
Yeah, I mean, like, as much as anybody tried to paint it as Neiman's fault, Tanner
was the lazy piece of shit.
Exactly. He handed it off when he shouldn't have. So next up, after practice that day, Fletcher keeps Neiman behind for a second.
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't that day. It was like a few weeks later. Like as they're practicing.
Yeah, it was the next scene in the movie.
Was this before? Like, was this before or after? No, that we have the dinner scene before this.
Oh, yep. Sorry, folks.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna
again, this is a pretty minuscule scene, but it's important for Neiman's character.
Very important. Yeah. So
they're dining with just family friends, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think it's he and his dad go to have dinner with, it looks like, aunt, uncle, and two of his cousins.
Was it okay? I associate with the neighbors. I didn't think it was like
sure.
Maybe it was.
The other guy looked kind of like his dad, so I'm just assuming it was his dad's brother.
They're having a fucking dinner party.
Exactly. So they kind of asked Neiman a little bit. They're like, "Hey, so how's school going?" And he's like, "Well, it's going great. I just made core drummer." And then like that second, the door opens and the two cousins walk in, and like the family is ecstatic to see them. They're like, "Hey, it's our favorite.
It's our star quarterback,
star quarterback and the
Model UN or whatever the fuck."
Oh yeah, it was Model. One of them was Model UN. One of them was a football player.
Yeah, quarterback.
And as soon he's in Division III, they were saying.
No. Newman mentioned God, I did it again. Neiman.
Well,
did
Neiman mentions it a second later, but like the family praises this guy for quarterback in Division III, and they're clearly not interested in Neiman as a drummer, which of course makes him kind of blow his top for a second. And he's like, "You guys are getting excited about Division III football," and
Neiman learning from Fletcher. Like
exactly.
the quarterback guy was like, you want to play with us? Like 4 words you'll never hear from the NFL.
Right.
Just damn, what a line.
We see him adopting Fletcher's personality a little, but then after he says that, his dad kind of turns on him and he's like, "Have you heard from the Lincoln Center?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Whoops, gonna leave the table now."
Yeah. It's a really important scene for me because I feel like anyone that's in like any kind of arts major, if you're an actor, a painter, a musician, whatever, a film student, it's so easy for the family members to blow you off and be like, "Oh, well, how are you doing? Is there any money involved? No? Oh, well, fuck you. You're wasting your time."
The first impulse from family and sometimes friends outside of the same profession, they always look at it as a hobby. They don't really see it as a career.
Yes. And I think it motivates Neiman to be like, I've got to be better because these people who are supposed to be my family and love and care about me don't give a shit unless I'm actually doing something bigger.
Right.
And it's just like, you can understand where his frustration is coming from. And like, it was a really frustrating scene because like, I know so many of my friends that I have one of my best friends in film school right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, it's such a hard, it's cutthroat competition.
Yes.
And for you to make any advancements, great.
Yeah.
And for it to be like, just like passive, like, "Oh, good for you. That's a great hobby. When are you going to actually start making some money?" It's like,
the classic, when are you going to get a real job?
Right. Yes, exactly. And
there's nothing more frustrating than hearing that if you're an artist.
Right.
This is your life. This is your passion.
The classic Joker line. It's not about the money. It's about sending a message.
Yeah, there you go.
And this scene was really telling about Neiman's personality.
Right.
Where it's like, he doesn't give a shit about money. He wants to just be remembered as one of the greats.
Exactly.
They bring up, what was the drummer? Buddy King?
Buddy Rich.
Buddy Rich, thank you. Where it's like, oh, he died broke and poor and drunk at 30. And it's like, but Yeah, they go after this guy's idol, this guy's role model for what, like the guy who like is like a blueprint for how he wants to be remembered as a drummer. And they mock him like, oh yeah, he died in his 30s when he was drunk and broke. But and like to Newman, it's like, yeah, but he's still remembered as one of the best. So fuck your opinion.
I would rather do that than die a retired football player with Alzheimer's.
Right. And it's just like it's a very, and I think right there, like that's one of the big themes of this movie. It's like, is it better to do something and be passionate about it and be remembered by those that respect what you do as one of the best, or is it better to just make a shitload of money?
Right. So this is now where we do cut to the scene. It's after another practice, and Neiman is still doing the core. He's very proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
And Fletcher calls him, he has him
stay after
for a second. After everybody else has left, he says, hey, so I'm bringing in a new drummer, and I'm going to try him out as the core for a second, which, of course, to Neiman...
as an alternate.
Well, yeah, I mean... But he's still gonna.
Oh yeah, no, he wasn't be for core. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
No, yeah. So he's saying he's gonna give this new drummer the same shot he gave Neiman, essentially. Yeah. And we find out it's Connolly, Neiman's friend from the beginning.
Friend in quotation marks.
Right. I mean, this guy was not made very prominent before now, but we know that this is Neiman's friend, so it's kind of especially harsh. It's like, no, you're not about to screw me over like this.
And it's great because Connolly walks in like just smiley baby face, like, hey, how's it going, guys? We're gonna have fun. Just like
he's so
the exact opposite of what belongs in Fletcher's room.
Exactly.
And just like it's like just what the fuck.
And Fletcher starts treating him just like he treated Neiman. He's being very kind. He's just like, hey, we're happy to have you here. Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and show us what you got.
Yeah, give it a shot. No pressure. Have fun.
Every frame just shows Neiman is super frustrated. Like
he lets Connolly use Neiman's drumstick.
Exactly. So I think it was Connolly. He didn't have his own stick, so he's just like, hey, can I borrow yours for a second, buddy? And Neiman just hands him over very deliberately, like, yeah, sure, here you go.
Like, how dare you touch my sticks?
Yeah. Connolly plays a quick, probably double time swing.
Yeah, it's a double hand swing again.
Fletcher's like, hey, that was a great job. We'll, try you out as a core for a day. And Neiman, in front of both of them, he's just like, are you kidding me with that bullshit?
Yeah, because it like, even to me, who's not a music guy, I'm like, I can tell right away, like, hey, that's not good.
No. Yeah.
Which, by the way, I forgot like the whole like back. Rewind to the tempo scene, like we're like not my tempo. Like the whole time, like I don't hear the difference. Like, I know. I never heard.
I just trust that everything Fletcher says about the music is right.
I'm sure they took extended but yeah, it's apparent like Connolly is not on the same level.
And it is really fun watching a movie like this dealing so hard in something like music, something that's not your profession, and listening to the professionals talk about it, watching them do it. So I don't know much about music. I did 3 years of band in middle school for what it's worth, but I still felt like an outsider watching this, but I was so immersed every time they did it.
But also in the scene, right as they Fletcher dismisses him, he gets a phone call.
Right. So as soon as Neiman says that, you'd kind of expect Fletcher to just tear him apart, right? Because nobody talks to Fletcher like that. But he gets a call, answers it, and he steps into his office for a second. And Connolly's just like, hey, Neiman, don't worry, bro. Like, it's all good.
Yeah.
And Neiman...
I gotta say, Connolly was probably the person in this movie I hated the most. Fletcher, I understood where he was coming from, even though he's a piece of shit. But like, Connolly was like, he was the douchey piece of shit who gets by barely, and like
he's just kind of a dunce.
Yes, and it's like I wanted to fucking punch in the entire movie.
So Neiman immediately goes into Fletcher's office, like kind of seething, and Fletcher's done with this phone call unrealistically fast, I think. We're going to cover that later, I think. But he goes in, Fletcher looks distressed, and Neiman says, like, what the fuck, man? I earned that core. You're not going to give it to Connolly. And Fletcher snaps on him, like, no, not now. Get the fuck out of my office.
Right. And, like, it like, he gives him a chance first. He's like, not now, Neiman. I don't want to deal with this right now.
Right.
And, like, right away, you can instantly tell, like, okay, he's not in the same mood. That phone call was bad. Mm-hmm. Oh, totally. Okay, just totally forgot about this. Like, so like this same thing, like, where like him, like, not as himself almost.
Yeah.
Before the first performance, we see them like he's talking to like a friend and like the friend's daughter, And like you see him being
yes.
very friendly to the daughter, and like, oh, I can't wait for you to come play with me, and
Exactly.
it's just it's and like Neiman sees it, and it's almost like a moment of like, oh, okay, maybe he is human after all.
Well, I mean, classic sociopath material almost, right? I
Mhm.
mean, he keeps switching back and forth so effortlessly between this monster of a person and just your kind, wants what's best for you
Right.
teacher.
Yeah. Which by the way, like when I saw him like getting the phone call, I thought I'm not like, oh no, the fucking little girl that is dead.
Oh God, that would have been
I
bad.
thought that's what they were going with that.
Yeah.
So that was like oh man, we're going this route, and it's
Yeah.
like so
Yeah. So after that scene, Neiman is determined to earn back the core spot. So once again he plays until his hands bleed. He's sweating. He's punching holes in his drums.
was this when did he breaks up with Nicole?
It's kind of the same sequence
Okay.
right now.
Yeah.
First we see him doing that, working himself to death, and quick shots of like, they make every little second count. So it's like he takes a Band-Aid out, unwraps it, and you're seeing all this in detail for like half a second each shot. Puts the Band-Aid on, starts playing again. Oh, Band-Aid came off, puts on two more.
No. Didn't just go up. It bled through.
Oh yeah, so his hands are sweating, bleeding. His hands are moving 100 miles per hour, and the Band-Aid just can't take it. So after that grind, he decides, it's not working. Or more specifically, he meets up with Nicole, and he breaks up with her because he considers her to be holding him back.
A distraction.
Yeah, and he goes through kind of a mini monologue about it.
Long story short, like, oh, I gotta be focusing more. It's gonna come between us.
Yeah,
you're gonna resent me for it. You're gonna make me want to stop, but I'm not going to. So like in a way, I'm like, I'm sparing you the have to deal with me more.
Yeah, he does not handle this tactfully. He's not good to her.
Right. He pulls a Fletcher basically.
Exactly.
Like he spells out why this is not going to work out, and it's because of these reasons, and deal with it.
He's clearly becoming Fletcher more and more.
Right.
And after he breaks up with her, sorry, I'm losing my place here for a second. Okay.
They have the class again.
So this is a really intense scene among intense scenes.
This is another scene where J.K. Simmons wins his Oscar.
Yep. When the band meets again, we've got all three drummers there, right? It's Neiman, Tanner, Connolly, and Connolly's gonna core. But when Fletcher comes in, his energy is totally different from the rest of the movie. He's kind of somber and looking at the ground, and he says, okay, hold on, everybody just, hang tight for a second. And he pops in a CD, which starts playing this kind of slow trumpet music. And he starts, he's sitting on the stool, he's got his hands folded together, and it's not the intense Fletcher, it's not the kind Fletcher. We're seeing the sad Fletcher. And he tells everybody a story about this aspiring young student he met a while back named Sean Casey. And, apparently the rest of the staff was telling him, this kid's not doing well enough with his grades or his music, you should cut him. And Fletcher's saying, well, they didn't see what I saw. I saw this, I saw the potential in this kid, the talent he had. Yeah. And this kid, we kind of assumed this was a Neiman before Neiman.
Yeah, and like the camera starts focusing on Neiman as he's talking about, like, I saw something in this kid, and I saw like what his potential could be, and I pushed him to be as good as he can be.
Right. And apparently Sean Casey went on to be accepted at the Lincoln Center. He was third trumpet, and then a year later he became first trumpet. So, after going through Fletcher's tutoring, this kid made it.
Yeah.
And then, Fletcher reveals that the phone call he got was, he says that Sean Casey died the day before in a car accident. And so that's why he's,
and it's like, we see Fletcher crying because of like the sorrow of like this potentially.
Did he cry though?
Yes, he was. There was tears. Okay. There was. I made sure to note. Like,
he definitely wasn't sobbing, but I mean,
no, like very very gently crying.
Right.
Like remorse of like what this guy could have been, how talented he was, and now he's gone.
Right.
And the world is denied how good this person could have been.
It is definitely the most human moment of Fletcher because unlike the kindness, we kind of don't really have any doubt that he actually is this torn up about it.
Right.
Now, when he starts the session off, and he has Connolly start playing, like, Fletcher really has stopped being so polite in the scene.
It quickly goes from remorseful, like sad Fletcher to okay, back to normal.
Yeah, so this incident has sent him over the edge over his edge, and he does the whole, gives him 1 second, doesn't work, and then he's like, okay, fine, Neiman, you're up. So, Connolly steps aside, Neiman steps up, starts playing, same thing happens, just like, nope, apparently you're all fucking useless. Tanner, let's give you a shot. Tanner steps up, same thing happens.
Connolly, get back up there.
Right, so Fletcher, straight up, he just tells the rest of the band, he's like, you know what, if anybody needs to go to the bathroom, get a drink, go ahead, step out, because I might be with these 3 guys for, all fucking night.
And he also has maybe one of the best insults. Where, like, I apologize to the real musicians. Oh. I'm dealing with these idiots over here.
Yeah, and
like, wow,
definitely the best best insult, because he's not even using any derogatory.
No, it's just flat out like, I apologize to the musicians in the room. I'm dealing with these guys.
Oof, yeah, real hot burn.
Fast forward to like 3 hours later.
Legitimately, I think they started at like 9 or 10.
Yeah, 9 p.m.
to 2 in the morning.
Yes,
and all 3 of these guys, I mean, they are drenched in sweat. They are panting. They're fucking
their fingers are bleeding.
There's literally blood on the drums. Yeah, like one of the drums is red and white, just spray, basically. And
he's just berating these guys like, get it right. Like, can you do my tempo?
He goes harder on them. Like, we can't quote everything, but he goes harder on them in this scene than he has on anyone in the whole movie.
And like, he tells Neiman to keep going faster. And finally he tells him to stop, and he's like Neiman, who is pouring sweat, fingers bleeding. He is like on the edge of collapsing.
Exactly.
And Fletcher's like, congratulations, you earned the part.
Yep.
Now we can start practicing. It's like, just what the fuck?
Yeah, so the rest of the band was just kind of out in the hallway for 4 hours, and then
5 hours.
Yeah. I mean, long fucking time. And then he's just like, okay, everybody come in. We can start now.
Intense. Again, very intense scene. One of the best scenes in the entire movie.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the next day they have a competition.
So I don't think it was the next day. I think it was a few days later. I don't know, maybe.
But they've got a very important competition coming up. Jazz festival where, like, these are the especially important spectators who, if they like what they see, they might get you a gig somewhere.
And he stresses like, okay, it's 2 hours away. Be sure to get there on time.
Yeah. So Neiman, and this is like, not all of them are taking the same bus or anything. They're not all traveling together.
Yeah.
They're just all supposed to meet at this place. So Neiman takes the bus. When he arrives,
well, the bus blows a tire.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so he goes to rent a car.
Well, no, actually.
Oh no, they wait.
So the bus blows a tire, and he just has to wait for them to get it fixed. And when it's fixed, and they arrive at the station, there's no cabs. He thought there were going to be cabs there, and they're like, no, you have to call one of those, but it's going to take too long. So he just, runs over to the car rental place.
Forgets his drums there. Or drumsticks there.
Yeah. He forgets his fucking sticks. So he rents a car, drives to this place, and he's like 2 minutes late, which already, that's all Fletcher needed. He basically sees him walk in, and he's like, no, you know what? You're late, so I'm going to make Connolly the core.
And Neiman loses his shit.
Yeah, he's definitely starting to blow up now, but he's like, no, I earned the part. I mean, we grinded for fucking 5 hours yesterday trying this. I got it.
He basically challenges Fletcher.
Yeah, and Fletcher gets in his face a little, not as much as you would expect, but he's saying, like, I will cut you from my band if you keep this up.
And Neiman's just like, if you were going to cut me, you would have done it already.
Yeah.
And just like, again, it's crazy because you're like, it's seeing two Fletchers going back and forth.
Exactly.
And like, Connolly trying to like, tell him like, hey, just ease up, man. And Neiman's like, shut up, Johnny Utah, turn my pages.
Yeah.
God.
Just annihilated him.
Yep.
Problem is, though, like we said, Neiman doesn't have his drumsticks, and it's, apparently he can't just borrow Connolly's or anything like that. So he's like, oh no, I forgot him in the car. I'll just go grab him now. He
runs out
his car, drives back to this place,
which is like 10 minutes away.
Exactly. So everybody is assumably back there thinking like, he's taking an awfully long time to
Right.
walk out to his car.
Right. So he's driving back frantically, like losing his mind, like yelling on the phone, telling him to wait for him.
Yeah, and then guess what happens? Boom! Car accident. Semi truck literally T-bones him.
I think it was like a pickup, but whatever. It was a big ass truck.
Big old vehicle.
Yeah.
He straight up just pulls himself out of the car and
grabs his sticks.
Yeah, grabs his sticks.
He keeps going.
He doesn't forget him again.
Bleeding from the head. His hand is bleeding because he's got like all messed up.
Yeah, I mean, the car was upside down when he crawled
right.
out. He's covered in blood and glass, but he just runs the rest of the way. Gets on stage at the drums.
Which okay, the fact that no one is upset, like what the hell, you're bleeding, like we need to like call an ambulance.
Yeah,
is like that was the one thing I'm like, okay, there is no way on God's green earth, no matter how important this jazz, if this guy walked down and he was bleeding, they would not stop that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Connolly's the only one who looks at him. He's just like, dude, what the fuck? But
yeah.
everybody else kind of looks at him like,
oh, okay.
He just walked out to his car and tripped.
Yeah, it's like I'm like that was the one that I'm like, okay, like I'm willing to buy everything else, but this guy bleeding on stage and no one stops him, bullshit. Like right.
But it doesn't stop Fletcher from getting things started, of course. So they start playing, and Neiman, he can only use one hand.
Barely, he can barely use the other hand.
He drops his stick. He has to lean down and pick it up. Fletcher, while they're playing, he just walks over to Neiman and he's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I mean, then Fletcher just stops the whole thing, and he stops it. He looks at Neiman, who again looks like he's on the verge of collapsing, and Fletcher just says, "You're done. You're cut."
Yep.
And he goes to apologize to the audience for what happened, and now Neiman really loses his cool. He literally tackles him. He attacks Fletcher. They have to pull him off and haul him out of there.
Behind the scenes note here: when he tackled J.K. Simmons broke or cracked 2 ribs.
What?
Yeah, and kept going with the take.
Didn't realize that.
So
what a guy!
Oh, what a trooper! Yeah. Which is only fair because during the scene like where Neiman got slapped, like J.K. Simmons really teed off and slapped him in the face. So.
Yeah,
which again, that's Hollywood.
1 rib for each slap.
Yeah.
So the next scene, of course, by now he's been expelled.
Yeah, we see a bunch of like clips. Like he's expelled. He gives up drumming. He packs all his drum shit away and he just throws away, rips down his posters of famous drummers.
Yeah. And while we see that montage, there's also a scene going on where. Neiman's father has asked him to come with him and meet the lawyer representing Sean Casey's family. And he finds out in this scene that Sean Casey actually hanged himself.
Yeah.
And that the parents are saying he developed severe anxiety and depression after he met Fletcher. So they believe Fletcher is the cause of the suicide. And the father convinces Neiman, he's like, look, Fletcher's out of your life now. You owe nothing to him. He's really fucked you up, so
this will be anonymous, like no one will know it's you.
Exactly. They're very clear that Neiman isn't. This is going to be a safe procedure for him, but kind of reluctantly.
Yeah, at first he's just like he doesn't want to hear it, and like you think like okay, he's gonna take the high road, but then he's like, okay, what do you want me to say?
Yeah, he just says, tell me what to say. Then cut to black. Fast forward probably a year.
It's like it goes from like it's the summer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We fast forward to summer semester, except he's not at Schaefer anymore.
He's working at a sandwich shop.
Yeah, he's working at a deli, and he has enrolled in, or I think he's enrolled in a new school. Maybe he was just moving into a new apartment.
No, he moved to a different apartment.
Okay,
and he's living life. Walks down the street one day, and what does he see?
He sees a sign advertising a jazz festival that will be featuring none other than Terrence Fletcher.
Well, no, I was talking about like the bar.
What?
Yeah, like he's walking down the street and he sees the bar that has like live jazz.
Yeah, well, that's where the jazz festival is going to be, though.
No. Like, well, okay, he sees that one, but then like he's walking down the street and like he sees like the sign like live tonight, Terrence Fletcher.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So he sees the advertisement for Fletcher,
right?
Who has been removed.
Yes.
We should make clear he's not working at Schaefer anymore, so it worked.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well,
yeah, because
Neiman decides to attend this thing.
Yeah, right? he walks into the bar and Fletcher is playing the piano very nicely too.
Yep. So he's playing now. picking up gigs, and
Yep.
Neiman just kind of goes in to look, sees him, and he tries to leave, but
Like as after Fletcher finishes his performance, he looks on the crowd, and there's Neiman.
yeah,
and,
so he comes out and he's just like, "Hey, Neiman, what's up? Want to have a drink for old time's sake?" And,
so they sit there, and this I think is the most important scene in the movie
yeah,
because Fletcher basically goes through and talks about like, well, I was removed and blah blah blah. Like the people didn't agree with my teaching styles, and basically justifies his whole teaching style, where he pushes people because he sees their potential. He doesn't want people to settle for how good they are. He wants to push people to how good they can be.
yeah. This is just the most direct debate between these. The most direct debate of this ideology, because
Yes.
Fletcher's explaining how he literally says he does not believe that there are any two words in the English language more harmful than good job.
Great line, by the way.
Right.
That's a great line.
Neiman, kind of lightly argues, just like, I mean, is there not a limit though? I mean, what if you
push the next Charlie
Parker again? Yeah.
Charlie Parker and he quits, and Fletcher retorts, the next Charlie Parker wouldn't quit.
Yeah. He talks about that symbol thing. He says he chucked a symbol at Charlie Parker's head. Joe Jones did, and he was laughed off the stage, cried himself to sleep that night, but then a year later he plays the best solo the world has ever heard. So Fletcher is clearly of the mind that there's no limit to his style of teaching. It will bring out the best.
ends justify the means.
Right. When they finish this up and they're about to part ways again, Fletcher says, "Hey, I've got an event coming up where I think they're gonna play at the Lincoln Center."
No, I thought it was Carnegie Hall.
Oh yeah, Carnegie Hall.
Yes. Okay.
So he and his new
just
band,
a bunch of people that he knows.
Yeah.
They're all getting together. They're gonna play. It's just we're gonna have fun.
Yeah, they're gonna play. Fletcher's gonna conduct, and he's like, I need a new drummer. The guy right now, he's not cutting it. And Neiman tries to be like, what about Tanner? What about Connolly?
And he basically says like, oh, Connolly was there just to motivate you,
right? He says,
and Fletcher went, Tanner went on.
Tanner switched to pre-med, and Connolly was just an incentive. So he's like, if you want it, it's yours. And well, guess what? He agrees. Neiman,
he dusts off the old drum set, calls Nicole, trying to reconnect with her.
Yeah, he apologizes to Nicole. Thankfully.
I think this was another important scene, where like he tries to contact Nicole, like, so like, hey, you want to come to the show? Like, oh well, I gotta check with my boyfriend, see if he's interested. And like, you almost see like in his face, like Neiman realizes like, well, like he has. It's almost like he has nothing else.
Yeah,
like
he lost that connection.
Yeah, he lost everything. He only has drumming. That's what he has.
He had a perfectly good thing with Nicole, and he screwed it up.
Yeah, and it's really telling to me because it almost feels like he just like he realizes he doesn't have anything else going for him besides this.
Yeah,
and that's the one thing he's good at, the one thing that brings him joy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like he relapses and goes back to hardcore drugs.
Right,
but his drug is drumming.
Right. So this is the final sequence of the movie now. We cut to this event, and
Neiman's father's there even.
Yeah, Neiman's father came to watch.
And he's so happy. He's smiling bright. Fletcher comes back and gives like a little like, okay, hey, like let's go out there and have some fun. Like not his usual routine.
No, because he's not dealing with his students anymore.
He's just dealing with buddies.
Mostly professional musicians.
Right. The big thing that he notes though, is
he notes to everybody, first of all, this is a very big crowd. It does have those spectators that are very important. He says, these cats, they never forget.
If you have one bad performance and you're done in front of them.
It's like, this is the make or break performance for all of you. Sorry, I had to cough.
So unprofessional.
So that's just kind of to be expected, right? Now everybody gets on stage. Fletcher has told Neiman that they're playing Whiplash, and so
like a few songs from like back in the old days of his.
Yeah, and he knows Neiman has it memorized, very familiar with it.
So in this right here was the scene where I developed anxiety. This scene killed me.
Really the most nerve-wracking.
He walks past Neiman and like just for a split second whispers, "You think I'm stupid?
Right.
I know it was you."
Yeah, and like that's step one of this.
And right then I'm like okay, the whole thing I'm like, okay, so like I'm thinking both people knew that the other knew, but they're just gonna get past it because fuck it, it's in the past.
Yeah.
And then this scene, I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen next?
Yeah, like he just let the air out of his tires before
Yeah.
he was about to drive, and so of course you're thinking,
You
well,
see-
now Neiman's
You
gonna...
see Neiman go from like, all right, I'm ready for this, to like, oh God, what now?
Oh yeah, because there's no escape. I mean,
There's-
he's,
yeah, you're
he's
trapped.
on stage
You're
in
trapped.
front of the audience. But then it gets dramatically worse.
Oh my
he's
God.
not just in the wrong headset. Fletcher goes up to the mic and he says, we're gonna play a little tune tonight called like "Take Me Home" or something.
Yeah, like Swing Time or something like that.
Yeah, that
A song that Fletcher doesn't, or Neiman does not have the musical sheets for.
Yeah, and he's looking around. Nobody's got Whiplash. He has Whiplash in front of him. Everybody else has this music. He doesn't know it. He's not familiar with it.
And he tries to play, and I wanted to turn off the movie right then. It was so hard to watch because
gut-wrenching.
He's struggling. The bassist next to him is like, "Come on, man, what are you doing? Like you're fucking it up for the rest of us." Yeah. And Fletcher just has he's the cat that ate the canary.
Yep.
He has, because Neiman is embarrassing himself in front of this crowd, in front of everyone.
Yeah.
He's becoming a laughingstock.
Yep. So obviously his career is over, right? He's been sabotaged. He's just...
Fletcher calls an end and like, oh, I apologize for that, folks. And
yeah, and the crowd gives this kind of slow, confused laughter, or not laughter, clapping. They're just like, what was that?
Well, you tried your best, you know.
So Neiman exits stage in disgrace. His dad has made it back there, and he gives him a big hug, obviously knowing what just happened. But Neiman then marches back on stage, gets behind the drums, picks up his sticks, and he just starts playing.
He doesn't start playing. He cut, like Fletcher's about to introduce the next song. Yeah. He cuts him off and starts playing.
True, yeah.
And Fletcher has a look of like,
yeah,
like what the fuck? And like, so the bassist's like, what are you doing, dude? And like, he's like, I'll cue you in. And Neiman's going, and then we get the best moment in the entire movie, which is as Neiman is drumming along, he looks dead at Fletcher and mouths, "Fuck you!"
Right?
I cheered so hard. It was so satisfying.
I know, it's a glorious moment. He takes control away from Fletcher.
Yes,
and Fletcher even comes over, like looks at him, he's just like, "I'll gouge out your fucking eyes." And
like, I will kill you. Like,
somehow Neiman like hits him in the face with the symbol.
Yes.
Awesome.
I was cheering so hard. And like, so like the whole band starts playing. Even Fletcher, like, who like takes off his jacket and has like the conductor black shirt on.
Yeah, he tries to make it look like he's not out of control right now. So he starts conducting, even though Neiman has the reins.
Yeah. And like
this is like a 20-minute sequence, by the way. I mean,
it's like 9 minutes.
Right. It's a lot of music.
Yes. But it's good. And like you're hooked and you're into it and you're like, I'm not a jazz guy. I do not like jazz. Right. But this was all right, I'm in. Like I'm cheering along with this guy.
Now it takes an unexpected turn kind of, because like once the number is over, rest of the band stops playing. Neiman keeps going though, and they've kind of reached this weird point where it feels almost like Fletcher and Neiman are not mad at each other right now. They're just trying to make this work. And Fletcher comes over. He's like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you still playing?" And Neiman
just keeps going.
He keeps going, and I think he says again, "I'll cue you." So Fletcher understands this. I did not, but Fletcher did. So he goes back to his place, and he starts conducting.
There's a great moment where like Neiman's cymbal bumps out of the way, like bumps out of position, and Fletcher runs over and fixes it for him. And like Fletcher's like, and like he's like right there with him. Like he's like, it's like the two of them just in like locked in the moment.
Right. They were like crossing swords a second ago. Now they're working together.
Right. Because Fletcher like it's almost like the glass shattering moment. Like Fletcher finally sees like this kid's got it. Like this is his moment. Like I need to be there. I need to help him.
Yeah. And again, this goes on for some time. Another CinemaSins quote.
Yeah, and it's an amazing drum solo, and like he's bringing it home, and then boom, cut the black.
There's another moment though, and this is I really want to talk about this moment in a little bit. After he's done playing, there's the silence, and they exchange a look. So Neiman looks at Fletcher, and we see a close up of Fletcher's eyes. And we see his cheeks raised. So, like, he smiles approvingly.
Yeah.
And Neiman smiles because he's like, I won his approval.
Yeah.
Then they start another number. And after, like, a couple of seconds of playing, boom, cut to black,
Yeah.
movie's over.
One of the best finales to a movie I've ever seen.
Right.
Because everything about like the setup, like the cliche, like, oh, we're enemies, but now we're friends, and we're gonna. I'm like, okay, the cliche ending, but okay, I'm on board. I can believe this.
Mm-hmm.
As these two musicians who are fans of jazz, they're gonna come together and make it work.
Yeah.
But then like this turn of like, oh, Fletcher's gonna get the last laugh. I'm like, oh, okay,
right.
And then Neiman finally saying, I'm had it with this motherfucker.
Yep.
Taking the wind out of my sails. I'm putting my own wind in my sails. I'm taking control.
Yeah.
Taking back the power from his abuser, basically.
Yeah. And it kind of requires a little bit of suspension of disbelief that all of this happens in the same scene, but it still fits with the movie.
But it fits because, like, at the same time, like, you ask any like jazz musician, like, if a guy starts playing and like he's playing good, you just be like, all right, I'm into it, man. Like, let's do it. Like, they'll go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that finale was fantastic.
Yeah. So now, what I want to, first of all, I think we're both in pretty much total agreement. We love this movie, right?
Fantastic movie.
Yeah.
The writing is great and believable. It's a realistic movie. The acting is phenomenal. Direction is phenomenal.
Yep.
J.K. Simmons is a god among men for this movie. He is one of the best actors of all time.
And I really love that he got the Oscar for the performance that really earned it. Like, it wasn't a pity Oscar.
It wasn't like who's that guy that won it for like fucking City Slickers. That
oh god,
yeah, like the guy who played Curly, like he won it was like
Jack Palance.
I don't remember, like he's like an old movie actor. It's like, hey, yeah, here's an Oscar because we never gave you one before.
I didn't realize he won for City Slickers.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that's a true story. Look that up.
But yeah, he got it for the one he deserved it for. I don't know I don't know how many people think DiCaprio deserved the Oscar for The Revenant.
He did.
I totally agree. But there were more deserving performances of his for it.
Absolutely. But at the same time, like as someone pointed out, like, we're supposed to give Oscars for performance acting. Like Leonardo DiCaprio literally put himself through hell. In that movie. Like it was an acting. So
it was. That's right. He was not acting in The Revenant. That was
anyway. So okay, I gotta let's touch upon the biggest issue in this movie, which is, do you think Fletcher, in his own way, his teaching style was right?
I don't.
Okay.
The simple fact of the matter is he was an abuser.
Yes.
Not just to Neiman, but like to everybody. And this guy killed himself because of the sheer amount of stress that was instilled in him through Fletcher. So, sorry, again. I understand the benefits of tough love and pushing people, but he was not just pushing people. He was cruel. He was manipulative. And just straight up, he was an abuser. So maybe he did certain things right, and he was clearly an expert in his field, but I do not think his ideology or his teaching style was justifiable, really.
I think it's one of those things. It's a question that people are going to ask forever. It's like what, like, is it right to push someone when you see, like, is it better to accept someone as good as they are, or like hey, I know this guy can be better if I push him, and I need to push him hard to become better. It's one of those questions that's never going to have a right answer.
Yeah, because sometimes a method actor is going to deliver a fantastic performance. That doesn't mean method acting is a good thing.
Exactly. So I think with this, you can look at it two ways. Like, it's a shade of gray where it's like, easily Fletcher is a horrible human being in this movie, and his teaching style deserves to be condemned.
Right.
But at the same time, if you ask the character Neiman, hey, Fletcher's teaching style kind of worked for him because look at where he ended up at the end of the movie. Would he have ended up that great? Who knows? Yeah. But the fact that he had that confidence and that ability to go out there and perform like that was thanks to his rivalry with Fletcher.
Really sorry about this coughing fit, folks.
All right.
Yep.
But I think that's one thing I like about this movie was like there was no like moment of like Fletcher being like, oh, I realized the error of my ways, and oh, well, I shouldn't have done that, and how could I? No, he was committed. Like, no, I accepted that. Like, yes, my teaching style might be extreme for some, but I stand by because I feel like that's the best way to get the results that need to take place.
Right. And I think the movie did a pretty good job of not justifying his style, but what I still don't really like is that very last scene. I love the finale, but I don't like how the very last thing we see is we get Fletcher's approval for Neiman, and Neiman accepts it like, yay, I finally got his approval.
Okay, hang on there. I would look at it more like this. It's like he challenged Fletcher and like, oh no, I don't. For Neiman, it was almost like, I don't need your approval anymore. I'm going on this stage, and fuck you, I'm doing this myself, and I'm running this show. And so, but when Fletcher gave him his approval, it's almost like, okay, you are as good as you think you are. You're as good as I think you could have been.
Yeah.
I think it was more about like, it was not necessarily that Fletcher approving of him. It was the fact that like he's acknowledging how good he is.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
I would like to believe that, definitely. I like that better than what I took away from it, because it just the way it was done to me, probably because it was avoiding the cliche of and Neiman just getting up, dropping his sticks and walking away. I do still kind of wish that Fletcher did not win as much as he did in the end, but
again, I think that Neiman took away his power. Yeah. He said like, hey, I don't need you to tell me how to play. I know how to play. Yeah. So I think in a way Neiman won, and like Fletcher finally saw what he actually wanted. He saw like, this kid is as good as I thought he was, and he's proving himself. So in a way, yes, Fletcher won because he got Neiman to be as good as he can be. Yeah. But in reality, Fletcher won because he took away the power that Fletcher had over him.
That's fair.
So that's my opinion of it.
Yeah, I agree with that overall. No matter what, I still love the movie.
Right, it's a great movie.
Eye candy, ear candy.
Yes. And again, that's the nice thing about this movie, much like last week's movie, where it's like, there is no right answer. Like, is Fletcher, like, I think we all agree Fletcher's a terrible human being, but like, the results were there. Like, so it's like, it's complicated. Yeah. And that's what you want from a movie, to challenge you and not have an easy answer.
Absolutely.
That being said, I love the fact that you can just watch this movie and be like, oh, it's a story of music bringing these two enemies together.
Yeah.
It's a story of this kid who is beat down upon, but eventually overcomes it all and becomes a great drummer like he always could be. Yeah. There's a multitude of ways to look at it. But it's not an Oscar-baiting movie where it tries to be deep and meaningful. The deep and meaningful things are there, but at the end of the day, it's a simple story of a kid becoming as good a drummer as he knew that he could be since day one.
Thankfully, I mean, I agree that it was really great to see Neiman achieve what he wanted by defying Fletcher.
Not by going through his route. Like, no, I'm going to succeed in spite of you.
Right.
Now, Fletcher approves of it because because in his way, he just wants jazz to live on. Yeah. If it's through this guy who says, hey, fuck you, and steals the performance out from under him, it's fine because it's worth it, because jazz, the thing that he loves more than anything in this world, survives because of players like him.
And it was great to see Neiman achieve this after Fletcher tried to take him down with probably the most effective strategy he could have come up with.
Yes, 100%. But he didn't let it get to him. Right. And I think that's the big thing to take away from here is standing up for yourself and believing in yourself and having the confidence to perform and to be as good as you can be.
He had the cymbal thrown at his head, came back, and then he hit Fletcher with the cymbal. I love that so much.
And said, fuck you, I'm doing it. I can't get over how good that moment is. Yeah. That was the moment. I'm like, this is the greatest finale of all time.
I love that, yeah.
It was great. So last question. Would you recommend this movie to everyone to watch?
Yes.
100% agree.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. This is a movie, especially for anyone that's played band. I never played band in my fucking life. If you're a band kid, you need to watch this movie. 100%. If you are in any kind of arts school or any kind of industry like that, where like it's very easy to look at the people and like be like, oh, you're not making any money, so you're not a success. You should watch this, because I think this is a good lesson about passion and about having the drive to believe in yourself.
Without question. Now, here's my last question.
Yes.
What happened to the folder?
I have no idea. Maybe a fucking janitor did come and pick it up.
Right, yeah. They make a quick comment, and Neiman's like, "Wait, I don't know. Maybe the janitor came and took it," which did not happen.
And Tanner's like, "A fucking janitor, really?"
Now, I mean, here's why I'm kind of so invested in this scene is like, just like with the phone call, they do not leave a lot of time for any theory to be
Right.
fully plausible.
That's another thing. Like why did Fletcher lie about how he died?
Yeah.
Was the student even actually that important to Fletcher?
Right.
Was it
Ooh,
was he just fucking with Neiman?
Mm-hmm.
Did he actually care much about this person, or
Right.
was it like just a manipulative tool? I like to believe that he actually did care about this person.
Yep.
And maybe the fact that like he hung himself, was hung on him so heavy because like he maybe in a way he questioned like, did I do this?
Right.
Maybe not.
One would hope, almost.
But that's a crazy question right there.
Yeah, and with the folder, it just kills me because I was thinking about it, and I mean, I thought about the janitor possibility. It's like, no, I mean, a janitor, because Neiman was like 2 feet away from it.
That's the thing. Like, how did you not notice someone walking behind you at all?
Yeah, so the most plausible theory I have about it is that Fletcher took the folder, sabotaging Tanner to give Neiman the chance. But this problem with that still is just the idea that Fletcher would basically have to be lurking in the corner watching.
And again, like that the way that guy commands a presence, like it's impossible that he'd walk down that hallway and also
and
like
not be noticed.
Yeah, and also like they're like talking or whatever, and like Fletcher is all the way down the hallway like yelling at them to come down.
So he would have had to like jump out, grab the folder, and then book it back to the class. I don't think Fletcher took it.
But again, this is things that go along with the what's the whole thing about like, Andrew and his social circle, like, and the guys when like they're like, oh hey, don't worry about those guys, blah blah blah. Like the mystery of the folder, and why did Fletcher lie about how the student died? These are all questions we have, but at the end of the day, much like the Big Lebowski, they don't matter to the story. The story is about Andrew.
It didn't need the answers.
It's about him. The answers don't matter as much as it is how it affects the main character.
Right.
It's a moment that progresses his story forward. Those mysteries don't matter to him, so therefore it doesn't matter to us, the audience.
Right. Exactly.
And that's filmmaking right there.
Yep.
And that's we don't need in life. You're not always going to get an answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, I think after this exhausting 2 movies of one about brain injuries and mental illness, the other one about anxiety and abuse. Yeah. I think we need something lighthearted for next week.
That's a good idea.
And I feel like we need to go back to the movie that started our discussion about doing a podcast.
I know.
The second greatest Heath Ledger movie of all time, starring Mr. Paul Bentley, who is always a win.
Of course.
A Knight's Tale. Something nice and light and easy.
You are.
And with the greatest soundtrack of all time. One of them. Top 5 for sure. So next week or whenever we get this, we're going to be pushing for weekly, but I don't think we're going to be able to do weekly all the time. Next time on the podcast, it'll be A Knight's Tale.
Dun dun dun.
And thank God it's going to be a little bit easier on our mental health.
Yeah.
All right. Anything to close out with?
See Whiplash is the bottom line, but also I think it's going to help with potentially recognizing the difference between what is getting angry and hurling insults and straight up abuse. I mean, I think that's another reason to see the movie.
Yes.
Is recognize all different types of abuse and the effect that it has on the abused.
100%.
Yeah. We're
getting really deep with this podcast, only 2 episodes in.
Mm-hmm.
Mental illness one week and then abuse the next week. I mean, God.
And then The Knight's Tale.
Yeah, The Knight's Tale. And then week 4 we'll talk about abortion.
Oof.
No, please God, no.
How about Spotlight?
Oh, that was the church, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Fuck that.
That's a Best Picture winner that just disappeared instantly, isn't it?
Well, no. I think the worst one was the last one was the Green Book.
Yeah. Hollywood's discussion worthy.
Hollywood's latest attempt to prove that we're not racist.
Oof.
God, are they the most like insecure people ever?
It kills me that they could have given it to Black Klansmen if they wanted to show they weren't racist.
Spike Jonze could get an Oscar. No, if they really wanted to prove they weren't racist, they would have gone full board and given it to Black Panther.
Yeah,
just to calm them.
They had to give it to the movie about racism that was made by white people instead.
And wasn't that good from whatever?
It was terrible. It was bad. It was bad.
Mm-hmm. At least Viggo. Well, actually, Viggo Mortensen now he's in 2 Best Picture winners.
Okay, I mean, The leads in Green Book.
No,
do
the
a
acting was fun.
tremendous
No,
job, but-
acting was fun. Yeah.
whatever.
I'm not questioning the acting. I'm just questioning whether that was the best picture,
Sure.
which it probably wasn't. I don't know what would have been that the year. I mean,
Probably Roma.
I never saw it.
Neither have I, and it doesn't look like my cup of tea, but it looks better than Green Book.
All right.
Yeah.
We're wrapping things up, folks. Take care. We'll see you next time on the podcast. Take care.